for updating us on that. I appreciate that.
Yeah, of course.
So now we're going to switch gears. I've stopped the presentation, and we're very lucky to have both the Senate candidates who are in the runoff with us this afternoon. And so I believe Mr. West is with us. Hi, Royce. How are you? Oh, I can't hear you. You're muted. Erica, can you unmute him? Oh, there you go. Would you like to spend a couple minutes just telling us about your campaign and what you
yes, I think I lost a video. Do you have my video feed also?
I see you.
Okay, I can't see you guys, but I'll move on. First of all, I want to thank the Blue Democrats for hosting this. And I agree with everything Paige has said. Make sure you take the necessary precautions to protect you and your family from this pandemic. This is just a temporary normal. We'll get through this. I'd ask that when you begin to think about who to support in this particular race, you do as you would do if you were interviewing someone for a job. You look at the person's background and you look at trusted references to make a decision in terms of who you're going to support. And if you do that, I think it's going to be Royce West. When you think about my past, I've been in the Senate for 26 years, and you know that I have dealt with a whole host of issues that you are concerned about. I stood with Wendy Davis and Cecile Richards as it relates to women's rights. And you know that I've been very effective in terms of that advocacy. You know also that I've supported all types of women's pay. I've been there. When you begin to think about procurement opportunities, business opportunities for women, I've led the state in terms of in the legislature to make certain that women got an opportunity to get procurement as well as minority businesses. That record is well documented. When you begin to look at criminal justice issues, you know that I've been on the vanguard of criminal justice issues in this state. When you begin to think about issues concerning gun issues, yes, I have supported gun issues in the state of Texas. When Ann Richards was governor of the state of Texas, I was the first legislator, to file a bill to deal with banning assault weapons, universal background checks, and reducing the size of magazines. And yes, I'm supportive of red flag laws. We are experiencing, if you notice, a high incident right now of domestic violence because of people having to stay sheltered in place. That's across the country. Over 1.3 million incidents have been reported. We've got to make certain that here in the state of Texas that we provide the resources necessary in order to reduce the number of incidents that are occurring in terms of domestic violence. And yes, if you begin to look at our record on domestic violence, you'll see that I was one of the forerunners in terms of legislation dealing with that issue. When you look at education, we need to get rid of that Secretary of Education who doesn't, frankly, think is that public education is the best way to go. I have been a public education advocate ever since I've been a senator. I've led the charge on many of those issues. When you begin to think about the work that we've done in the previous legislature as it relates to House Bill 3, Democrats' fingerprints all over that bill in terms of increasing teacher pay, in terms of increasing the state's share of funding public education in this state. We have a formula now that does that and it reduces the reliance on property taxes. Additional resources for underprivileged schools. Those things were done also in this legislation. When you begin to look at issues concerning climate change, I take no backseat to anyone. You think about the wind energy that we have in the state of Texas, specifically at the Panhandle. I was very instrumental in helping to craft that legislation and to get it passed. Immigrant issues, LGBTQ issues, hate crime. When we began to look at the issues concerning hate crimes, the fact is that Republicans didn't want LGBTQ at that time in the bill. We stood our ground and was able to get that particular population in there. Issues concerning reform in terms of criminal justice, body cameras. I was on the front end of the body camera legislation, the dash camera legislation, victims' rights, providing top-notch equipment for police officers. I've done those things. I'm a former prosecutor in the Dallas County District Attorney's Office, the first African-American chief felony prosecutor in the office, and yes, also a candidate for district attorney. When you think about the references, you look at the references, Kirk Watson, a trusted messenger there in Central Texas, Celia Israel, a trusted messenger, Cheryl Cole, and I can go on and on, have endorsed my candidacy for U.S. Senate. I'm the only true Democrat in this race. And what I mean by that is when you begin to look at my record, you'll see that I've voted Democrat ever since I could vote. I've chaired a Democratic state convention. I serve on the Senate, on the state Senate Democratic Executive Committee, as well as the DNC. When you begin to look at endorsements across the state, the Dallas Morning News, the Forward Star Telegram, Houston Chronicle, all have endorsed me. When you begin to think about the other candidates that were in this particular race, Christine Ramirez has endorsed me. Chris Bell, Michael Cooper, Seema Hernandez, all have endorsed my candidacy for the U.S. Senate. So I ask you, when you begin to interview for this job, and many of you are employees, many of you have interviewed, look at the resume and look at the trusted references. And I think that there's only one conclusion you can come to, that Royce should be your choice for U.S. Senate. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Appreciate your time today. We're going to move on to MJ Hegar, who's also running for that seat, and we'll hear from her. MJ, are you here?
Hi, everybody. Yep, I'm here. Can you hear me okay, Michelle?
I can hear you great. Thank you.
Okay, great. Thank you guys so much for having me today. Really appreciate all the information that your meeting started off with. I want to add that we have a lot of information on our website also of things that people can find to do. While you're there, feel free to sign up to help us with our mobilization. We've got a real big spike in people that are mobilizing with us digitally, and that's really exciting. There's a lot of exciting things going on in the campaign. But there's also a page that says things that you can do, like writing letters to elderly people in nursing homes and things like that. So definitely check that webpage out. So you guys know me, you know my background. I don't want to go into that. I will say that I'm really excited about the way that we are flexing the campaign. People do not want us to stop fighting against John Cornyn. There is a real appetite for thinking outside of the box, stopping, doing things kind of status quo, or using the COVID crisis as an excuse to not fundraise or not mobilize. We are going to be posting our strongest fundraising quarter to date. And that's because we've based our fundraising on the type of fundraising that is sustainable, not high dollar, not max out donors, not corporate PACs, but actual grassroots donations. We've got donations from over 3/4 of the counties in Texas. Our average online donation is only $22. We raised over $5 million. We really need to be able to raise resources if we're going to take on John Cornyn. We have 90% of our donations are under $100. So really proud of the grassroots. I think we have over 40,000 now unique donors. Tons of online mobilization. We've done a lot of virtual town halls and meet and greets. Gotten into all the corners of the state. We're before the COVID virus, we were driving tens of thousands of miles across the state and connecting with people, and that hasn't changed. We're just doing it virtually now. We're definitely focusing on not losing that personal touch and that hyper localizing the issues, and that's been really effective as well. So I have every confidence that we're going to be beating John Cornyn in November. Very proud of all the endorsements that we've gotten, things like Brady and Gifford, because I'm the strongest on gun violence. We've gotten Planned Parenthood because I'm the strongest, and Emily's List strongest on women's rights. And Citizens United, I'm the only candidate that hasn't taken any corporate PAC money. Corporate PAC money is the problem with politics right now. It's why our legislators are not reflective of their constituents. When 90% of our country wants universal background checks, 90% of our legislators should want universal background checks if they're more reflective. We're going to beat Cornyn for a couple of reasons. One, there is a dissatisfaction with the status quo. The state does not like him. He has a very low approval rating, 35%. And I am going to be able to provide the right type of contrast. The things that make Cornyn vulnerable are not that he is a Republican. There are Republicans in this state that are popular. Ted Cruz, Abbott, both of them have above 50% approval ratings, while Cornyn is at a 35. That's because people are really tired of politics as usual, the good old boys club, the status quo, and the system that is not serving them. We need to provide contrast with Cornyn, and that means that the candidate that takes him on has to be able to say, we are done with career politicians. We're done with people that take corporate PAC money. We're done with people who have bought into a system that has not been serving us regular working Texans. So I'm really excited about our chances. I'm excited about the support that we've got. I think that we've built the campaign that's going to withstand the transition into a COVID environment. I think that we are going to continue building and continue going strong, and we're going to unseat John Cornyn and actually provide a healthy dose of Texas values to DC, which is something that we don't see very much of. We don't see a lot of strength and integrity and willingness to stand up and fight. We see a lot of negotiating and plea bargaining and trading our values for backroom deals filled with cigar smoke. So I'm really excited. A lot of people that I'm seeing on the campaign trail are still really excited. And if you're bored and you've done all the things that you can to serve your community and you're looking for extra things to do, please come to one of our organizing boot camps, because frankly, we can't take on John Cornyn without you guys. I really need your support. You've supported me in the past, and I'm looking forward to working with you guys into the future. And thank you so much for having me. Thank you.
Thank you both for joining us. I suppose in a way this virtual format makes it a little easier for you guys to get around so much. Thanks to both of you.
Thanks, Michelle.
I want to move on to, I believe we have both congressional candidates with us for our area. And I would like to call Wendy Davis up if she's still on. If you want to unmute, I think you'll pop.
Sorry, I was looking for my unmute button. How are you, Michelle?
I'm doing well. It's good to see you.
Good to see all of you too. Hello to my former Senate colleague, Royce West, and to MJ Hegar, and thanks you guys for working so hard down the finish line for us. I know your journey got longer as the date for the runoff election got extended. I want to say thank you to everyone for making me the candidate for Congressional District 21. It's a fantastic opportunity, and we have a lot of work to do. I'm sure that many of you know that my opponent, Chip Roy, was one of only 40 people in the entire U.S. House of Representatives who voted against one of the really important coronavirus relief bills, the second of the three bills. He ridiculed it on social media. He said the only thing that was not in the Mnuchin-Pelosi bill was free toilet paper for all, and posted up a big picture of lots of toilet paper rolls, and then tried to take it down. But of course, as we told him, the internet doesn't forget. And that's what he chose to do in this moment when so many people were hurting. That bill included an opportunity for people to get expanded unemployment coverage. It included an opportunity for paid sick leave. It included support for our small businesses. And of course, it included support for making sure that we had access to free testing. So we're going to make sure that voters all the way through November understand that's the kind of representation that they're getting from him. And it's part and parcel of what we've seen, honestly, ever since he's been in that seat. He was Ted Cruz's former chief of staff, and he's demonstrated over and over that he's there to represent an ideology, not to represent the people who he is supposed to be serving back home on a day-to-day basis. Our campaign's going great, thanks to all of the help that we've gotten from each and every one of you. We are going to report in the next report that we've raised a little more than $3 million. We had our strongest fundraising quarter this last quarter, coming in at over $1 million, which is quite remarkable considering the challenging circumstances that we find ourselves in right now. And we're so grateful for each and every dollar that's been donated to help us get there. And our donations are less than $100 on average, and coming from thousands of people all over the district and the state, which I'm really proud of. I do want to say something about the work that we're trying to do to be supportive of our community right now in the midst of everything that we're facing. Number one, we're doing Facebook Live town halls every Friday evening at 5:30. I would encourage you to please join us for that and spread the word about it. We've been hosting different people as our guests to talk about what's going on the ground and help us better understand what we need to know and support services that we can access. Our unbelievable volunteers created a resource guide that we have up on my campaign website, wendydavisforcongress.com. And that resource guide is broken down into each of the 10 counties that's in Congressional District 21 with specific resources on how to access food, access economic benefits and support for small businesses, how to access healthcare, and of course, ways to answer a lot of the questions that people have. We also are creating a clearinghouse on our website. If you're a person who wants to be of help, but you're not quite sure how your efforts might be utilized, sign our quick and easy form there, and we're going to match you in a county that you live in with someone who's needing help. Maybe someone who needs you to go pick up a prescription for them or do some grocery shopping for them. I know a lot of us are feeling like we want to do something in this moment, and we're trying to create a vehicle so that people will have an opportunity to connect with each other in that way. As you probably know, on Friday, the payroll protection program that was provided for in the most recent coronavirus relief bill went live. People could submit their applications for that. The site, as you can imagine, starting at 8 a.m. that morning when it went live, it just was crashing like crazy because so many people are trying to access that kind of support to keep their employees on. And that payroll protection plan is something that is specifically aimed at our small business community. It is aimed at making sure they're keeping their employees, and if they've furloughed them or laid them off, that they bring them back on, and they can do that even if they've already laid them off in February. They can still qualify for those resources if they agree to bring them back on. And it's a way, obviously, to keep people employed, to keep their health care benefits up. It provides money to small businesses so that they can pay their rent and their utilities. And it's an incredibly important resource, and we want to be helpful if you have any questions about that. I had some experience on Friday working with some of our small business and nonprofit partners who are applying for that, and kind of learn the ropes of what some of the challenges look like there. So if y'all have any questions about that, please direct them to me. You can get in touch with me directly at wendy@wendydavisforcongress.com, and that does come directly to me, and I do read it constantly. So certainly we'll get back in touch with you. Also on the phone right now is Robert Svoboda, who is our organizing director for the campaign, and I know a lot of you know and love Robert, as I do, and he's there to help make sure that we connect people to those resources too. We're gonna keep fighting all the way down the line. There's so much to talk about right now. One of the things that I personally find myself most upset about is the fact that Greg Abbott and Ken Paxton and Dan Patrick used this horrible crisis as a vehicle to block women from receiving abortion care in our state. And the trial court immediately overturned that, and then the Fifth Circuit, as I thought they would, unfortunately blocked the trial court's overturning of that order. And so now here we find ourselves at the mercy of the Supreme Court, and we all know what our chances are likely looking like there. So in the short term, if you have resources and can support those organizations that are trying to provide access to women who need abortion care, they're going to probably have to go out of state now to be able to do that. It's a horrible, shameful, awful thing that's happening. And we're going to have a town hall to talk very specifically about that topic in the very near future to make sure and answer questions and provide direction on that. And with that, thanks so much for having me, Michelle, and thank you to everyone in the Blue Action Dems for all that you do.
Oh, thank you so much. Thanks for popping in, and I really appreciate the update on what you're continuing to do, the resources available, and especially the town halls. That's great to hear about. And I know our candidate for Texas 25 has also been doing town halls. Julie, you're still on?
Here I am.
Here you are.
Thank you. You know what's interesting about these Zoom meetings is you get to look at into everybody's homes. And I'll say the two people who have probably the most interesting backgrounds, and I know y'all are all going to want to scroll through this. Marianne Espiritu, it looks like you are on Star Trek Voyager. And then Jose Garza, you have a gorgeous room. I don't know where you are, but it's beautiful. So sorry, I digress, but I got a little a little nosy during the beginning of this. So what have we been up to? I feel like just because we can't knock doors doesn't mean we can't organize. And I will tell you, as soon as we started sheltering in place the week of March I think it was 16th. Our family actually started sheltering in place March 13th. We knew it was important to get resources to the 13 counties in our district, and we put together a resource guide and launched it almost 2 weeks ago for the 13 counties. And it has federal information, state level information, and then resources that are local. So if you want to have access to that and share it around in District 25, it's julieoliver.org/coronavirus. And then for the last 2 weeks, our team and our team of volunteers have been quite literally calling and checking on people, well checks throughout this district, and checking on the folks who are the most vulnerable and seeing what we can do to help either connect them with resources that they need or find folks who can help them. On the very first day we called, we connected with an elderly woman in Hamilton, Texas, who had no groceries, was literally down to her last few slices of bread, could not get to the store to pick up her medications. And so we called the county chair, and by that evening, somebody brought and dropped off all of her groceries and her medications to her front porch. And so if you are interested in making these well check calls, I tell you, it is such a dramatic shift from campaigning, and it feels so good to be of service to the community. I invite all of you to join. You don't have to live in District 25, but if you'd like to call and check on people, I can tell you people are so appreciative, even if they're doing great. They're so appreciative to know that somebody's calling and checking on them. And we have 80,000 calls to get through. So julieoliver.org/volunteer, and you can help us make those well check calls as well. And then the other thing that we are doing, virtual town halls. I thought we would be able to get by with one a week. It ends up we're having to do about 3 a week. So tomorrow morning, we will have a virtual town hall with Representative Celia Israel. Tomorrow night, Ashley Chang, one of the Rabble girls, the Rabble podcast girls, will be talking to us not only about what it's like to be in a family that has a small business, but also the racism that is being leveled at the Asian American community right now because the Trump administration, that's how they operate. And then Wednesday night, we are going to have 2 doctors on. Teresa Pham, many of y'all know her. She's Blue Action Dem from the North Chapter, and Dr. Atif Shanawaz. And we are going to talk about smashing the curve. So what does it look like if we want to stop delaying this indefinite loop of a 2-week cycle where we are all sheltering in place, but one person goes out and infects 4 people? What does that look like? What do we really have to do? So join us this week. Facebook Live, we actually even set up, if you don't have social media, you can go to julieoliver.org/live, and the virtual town halls will be streamed there. So Monday, tomorrow at 10 and at 6 p.m., and then Wednesday at 6 p.m. And then I will finish everything by saying this. If this situation that we're in right now, which has been a colossal failure at the federal level, hasn't reignited your desire to get folks elected who will do the right thing, whoever is our Senate nominee needs all of our help. And I'm so fortunate, we are fortunate to have 2 amazing candidates. And then obviously we have to get Wendy Davis elected and me elected. I spent yesterday in a Twitter battle with Chip Roy's chief of staff. Anyways, if this pandemic has not demonstrated the need for universal health care, then I don't know what will. But with 10 million people losing their jobs over these last 2 weeks, many of whom had employer tied insurance, we've got to do something that will work for everybody. So keep on fighting, keep on organizing. Just because we can't do it at people's doors doesn't mean we can't do it virtually and on the telephone. So thank you all, and thank you Blue Action Dems for continuing the work that y'all are doing.
Thank you, Julie. We can't wait for you and Wendy to get elected either. So thank you. What's great about, what's great about this crisis, I was about to say, which is a horrible thing to even say, but it is like we get to see you in the role because you are stepping out, and both you and Wendy are providing that leadership right now in real time and giving us that information we need. So